I mean, so the courage to be vulnerable, I think about athletics, and it's not a 9 to 5. We're not punching the clock in the morning and going home and leaving it all at the door, right? We're asking people to navigate things together, to share, the hardest moments, the greatest moments, to physically put yourself out there, all of these things. So I think emotionally, if you're not willing to show up as your whole self, to be vulnerable at times, particularly as a coach, you're just never going to reach the level of achievement that you need to.
So, Coach, you were the first NC2A women's basketball head coach to get hired in the NBA by the Cavaliers when it happened in 2019. Was that a little scary for you?
Oh, absolutely. I was scared as heck. I mean, that was part of my process of figuring out, should I do it? Should I not? What are my emotions? I will say, when I was an assistant at the University of Richmond, and my boss and mentor at the time, Joanne Boyle, took the job at Cal, became the head coach at Cal.
Right.
That was a moment, and I was probably 26 at the time. I was really scared then. I remember thinking, there were a bunch of All-Americans at Cal that was coming in to coach. Are they going to listen to me? I played in the Ivy League. I've never been to California in a professional capacity. I don't know any of the club coaches. Am I going to be good at recruiting? All those things. I was really scared. And I did it, and it ended up being the best professional experience of my career, and also personal experience, met my husband, all those things. So I called upon that kind of feeling, even though it was years later and different when the NBA came calling, and I went through a range of emotions. What if they don't listen to me? What if I'm not good at this? I'd been a head coach in college for 11 years, and now I was going to go be an assistant and out of my comfort zone. So that ability to allow myself to feel what I was feeling and then decide I wanted to do it anyway was actually quite empowering.
As a coach, I think with young people, they have a really hard time with allowing themselves to be vulnerable sometimes.
For sure.
How do you bring that out in your young ladies that you're coaching to kind of teach them that it's okay to be vulnerable?
I think you model it. A couple things. We play a game, and then I break down the film, and I teach them with it the next day. I want that to be a really positive experience. Like, it's not always easy to be critical. Like, I tell them, we're more critical as coaches than anyone in your life. Maybe your professor marks up a paper and gives you a B, but we're ones are really saying, hey, you ran harder, but you can run harder. Or, you made this play, but this was also open. So you have to create a relationship in which it's safe to be striving to be better. And so sometimes when I break down the film, I'm more than willing to say to them, guys, in watching the film, I messed this up. I should have emphasized this more,
right.
Or I should have done that. So in that sense, I'm always willing to, let them know that I'm, judging myself, or I'm putting myself on the same standard that I'm holding them to as well. That's number one. Number two, we're all humans together. And yes, I'm the leader. And yes, I'm supposed to be strong and all that. But if I can't show the human side of when, something impacts me in a certain way, I don't think I allow them to be as open either. So I just try to model it the best I can in terms of, that showing that vulnerability doesn't make you weaker. It actually, I think, makes you more complete and able to do what you're doing.
It's all tied to this failure thing, right? And the fear of that. We don't want to have that. We don't want to be pointed out publicly.
Yep.
I just remember being in the film room where they go back and then your footwork was wrong. Back again.
Yeah.
See, when you do back again. It's like you spent an hour on that
Totally.
one play.
Yeah. I mean, I've had players literally tell me it's traumatizing with the coach on that sound of the click, rewind. So I'm conscious of not having any teaching moment be, punitive in that way or negative, but making them understand that if you have a growth mindset, there's going to be all kinds of emotions. And then just in terms of the vulnerability, I mean, I don't know. I when I speak and stuff to as particularly to women, I tell them, lean into your fears, right? You have to do hard things sometimes, and understand that that's where growth happens, and particularly with the NBA. I remember prior to taking the Cavs job, I had an opportunity to go work with a different NBA team in a free agent camp. And I said, well, let me do this because like, let me see, do I like working with guys and how do I feel about it? And I remember in like the first 3 or 4 minutes when I stepped onto the court and these guys are warming up, like that first 3 minutes, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do this. Like this isn't for me. Like I was nervous the way I hadn't been since, I was 14 years old going to camp and there's a tryout, right? Because now I'm at the point in my career where things get me going, but I'm not necessarily nervous. And then the camp got going. And I leaned into it a little bit and I got to write on the board and coach guys, and it was basketball. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is what I love doing. But if I hadn't got past that initial fear of this feels a little different, I never would have done it. And that kind of experience feeling good or good enough allowed me to, take the Cavs job, which again was just an incredible life experience and one that I'll, be grateful for forever and has led to relationships that I think will continue to impact my life. So I think the vulnerability piece of it, to allow yourself to be vulnerable, actually lets you go further than if you just shut it off at that point.
In sports, you have a winner and a loser. So there's a lot of failures.
Yep.
How do you, or you take a shot, you make it or you miss it.
Yep.
It's all binary, right?
Sure.
How do you teach your kids to not be afraid to fail? Because there is that moment where, especially if you're in a slump, you've missed a bunch of shots in a row.
Yeah.
How do you keep shooting? Like, what do you do for, to help them with that?
I think it's really an interesting point, because I've had some teams where you need to really explain to them there's a winner and a loser, and like we have to figure out a way to be the winner. Like nobody remembers the loser. Nobody really cares why you lost. Like, so there's sometimes it's building that competitiveness where you're trying to get them to really understand, like, everyone wants to win, only one comes out on top. Then there's the other piece to it, which you're talking about, I think, which is not being sort of paralyzed by that or not having that be the only measuring stick. And I think that's where your process comes in. We're a team 365 days a year. We're not together 300, but a lot of them we are, and there's only 35 games or what have you. So the ability to teach them how to kind of like win each day, I know it's a little bit of a cliche, but do the process that allows you to win can be really helpful. For example, now the Cavs are, having a tremendous amount of success, and any of those of us who kind of associate, like, can't wait for this year because everything could be incredible. But when I was there, it was part of the rebuild. And there are 82 games, and we sort of knew we weren't going to win most of them, and we were so committed to the process of developing those young players and finding measurements that were not just about the outcome. And obviously in the NBA, you have these incredible amount of resources, right? The analytics and the time you have with guys in the development. But I've carried a lot of that over because ultimately the goal is to win, right? Eventually the Cavs were gonna win, and winning's a priority. But to kind of be a part of all of that process has also helped me here to say, look, we have 35 games and we wanna win dang near all of them. But if I can be really good at all the other pieces and getting our players to embrace all the other pieces, it's going to lead to a lot more winning, but it's also going to lead to a mindset where you're not only focused on the outcome.
Right. That's where the trust comes in, with your players,
Yep.
and believing what you're feeding them as part of the process that will lead them to the promised land.
Absolutely.
Right. That's a huge piece of it.
Absolutely. And I don't want to forget, like, the joy in that, right? Like, if you're not, the grind and the process can be hard. There's a lot of work in it. You're not supposed to love every little piece of it, but overall you want to feel an enjoyment in what you're doing, so that the hurts of the losses really hurt, but they hurt in a way that you feel like you're part of something really important and you want to get back to doing it again, so you get that next opportunity to reach the top, which is what drives us all.
Well, I know you're at a major program here at USC, but is there too much emphasis? Just take sports in general. Is there too much emphasis on winning? Because the lessons that we learn through sports, and you've touched on many of them, are those things that will carry us forward in life.
Sure.
And there's a finite time you're going to be playing the game.
Right.
But hey, trust me, you're preaching to the choir here. It's way more fun to win than to lose.
Yeah.
But is there too much emphasis on that?
I think it depends on the level you're at, right? So again, I'll talk about the NBA, college, and then like youth, for example. So I think the Cavs are a great example, right? In the post-LeBron era rebuild, I thought the ownership and the management did an incredible job in saying we're going to continue to invest, even when we know we're probably not going to win at the highest level, right? They understood that you still have to put money and resources in when you have a young Darius Garland, a young Jarrett Allen, even if you're not going to get back the playoff revenue yet, to get them to where now they are there, right? I thought that's like really forward thinking in a lot of ways. And so, yes, I think their emphasis in those couple years was not just on, winning 60 games and being a playoff team, but it was investing in the process ultimately for the goal of winning, right? Similarly, and at some point you got to win, right? Then you pay the guys, then you're in luxury tax, and it's a money-making business. It's a business, and they have to win.
That's true.
College, I would say the same thing. We're really in the business of developing human beings, giving them opportunities.
And that's what you love that part of it.
I do love that part of it. But you have way more ability to do all that at a high level when you're good, right? Like,
that's true.
When we go to a Final Four at Cal and we're going to 7 out of 8 tournaments, like everyone wants to hear me speak and everyone wants to know what we're doing and everyone wants a piece of our players. Like we all have more opportunities. Like no one cares if you're not winning, right? And ultimately, like I am hired here to create a championship program. Like I'm going to get great people. We are going to care about them. We're going to help them get jobs. We're going to help them graduate. But that's not enough. Like we need to do that and win because it's college basketball and there's stuff on the line, there's championships on the line, right? So there's always, I don't think you can win enough if you're not investing in the other areas of it. But let's make no mistake, at the high college level and pros, winning matters. Now you go to youth, and particularly like
high school.
High school, yes, younger, like there you have to really make the distinction that probably no one's job is on the line based on winning and losing. To some degree, futures are more on the line in how people are treated than anything else. So the number of girls, for example, who drop out of sports when they hit 11 and 12 is astronomical and has life-changing impacts, right? Like they're more likely to have unwanted pregnancies or be in abusive relationships if they drop out of sports. They're more likely to be CEOs of companies and be successful if they stay in sports. And I imagine...
Is that statistical?
Yes. Oh, for sure. And I imagine there's similar benefits for boys. Just participation has so many... So I think it's a slippery slope. In youth sports, if you're only focused on the winning and it's miserable and kids drop out, now they're losing all these really good things. So I think we have to understand when they're youth... Doing it right and handling it correctly may lead, someone, there may be a Ram Marshall in the group, who comes to play at USC. There may be a, whoever that goes to be a pro, but the majority of them just need the benefits of playing. And we got to be really careful there that doing it right, and it doesn't mean that there's no emphasis on success or high level, but it can't be at the expense of the experience and then kids not wanting to do it. Right. And I would say that's the same in college and the pros, but there is really a premium on winning, and understandably so, and it has to, reflect that.
You mentioned earlier the process. So to get to the winning, if you make it about the process, the winning becomes a natural. So when you're talking to your players, do you talk about winning or do you talk about the process more? I'll give you a great story that I love is when Alabama was in a national championship game a few years ago, there was a couple players on the field who almost got in a fight on the Alabama side, and it was when the game was already over. They were up by like 3, 4, 5 touchdowns.
Right.
And so it did not matter. That play did not matter. But they were so involved in the process that even with 3 minutes to go in a game that they were going to win, they almost went to fisticuffs because they were so fired up about the process.
Totally.
How do you kind of differentiate the two when you're coaching your team?
Yeah, and similarly, we all love USC football and we're all on Team Lincoln Riley here. He made a point the other day in the Fresno State game, Fresno State game, that they were not going to lose. Right, that his favorite sequence was that goal line stand at the end.
That's true.
Right, that probably didn't determine the game, but whatever his long-term goals are, getting the defense at a certain level or building that winning mentality, that was really important to him, even though it probably wasn't going to determine the outcome. I think players understand that the ultimate goal is winning. But like I said, we only have 30-something games. It's a Thursday in September today. I have to find a way to get my players really motivated to be really great in our 1-hour workout today. So I can't really talk about, maybe I'll throw out a name of a Pac-12 team and are we going to be ready, but more so it's about creating a culture and an environment in which they care to have their closeout be a little bit better than yesterday, or they care to have, the spacing be, and so yes, you have to create this almost maniacal, desire to get better every day.
Right.
And then there's times where it becomes about winning. This scouting report, exactly what we're doing, plays that impact winning. But if that's the only thing you're talking about, I don't think you're going to get better on a micro basis every single day.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
This is the part where we're supposed to tell people to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Okay, will you please do that then? I mean,
Yeah.
if you enjoy it,
Yeah.
please do.
And if you don't, do it anyways, because we need your help.
We do.
Also, we have a website called GameChangeNation.com. Just go there and subscribe and you'll get tons of free content.
And what we're really trying to do is create a community of people that love sports.
Yep.
And the great lessons that we learn from sports, but we want to hear from you.
We do. So we're going to have a bunch of social media pages from TikTok to Instagram to Twitter to Facebook. Instagram, I probably already said all of them. Please join them and tell us your stories. We'd love to hear from you. Oh, and we wrote a book.
Oh,
Forgot about that.
Forgot that.
The book is called Through the Tunnel. It's available on Amazon now. If you go straight down here to this link that you can see below us, you will be able to purchase it. We'd love it if you could do it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.